Because it's basically a choose-your-own patriarchal adventure porno fantasy.
If you've been following the news, you've probably seen alarming stories about an army of angry and vicious video gamers marching under a banner called Gamergate. Well, according to these reports, this mob will stop at nothing to defend its heteronormative privilege. Well, is this an accurate picture of Gamergate? I'll consider the evidence next on The Factual Feminist. Gamergate is a Twitter hashtag, and it attracts gamers from all over the world, males and females, liberals, conservatives, black, white, straight, gay, trans. Some gamers identify with the hashtag because they believe there's too much corruption in gaming. Others are weary of cultural critics who evaluate video games through the prism of gender politics. Now, I discovered Gamergate when I was working on my recent video about sexism in games. Now, in that video, I pointed out that the evidence does not support the claim that video games cause violence or misogyny. I mean, gaming has surged since the early 1990s, but youth crime has plummeted. And millennials who were born and raised in video game nation, they are far less sexist, homophobic, bigoted than older generations. Now, I deplore the fact that some feminist critics and game developers have been threatened. And in the earlier video, I pointed out that gamers were being blamed for issuing death threats, even though no one knows who sent them. Well, since that video, I've learned that several people inside Gamergate, including 2 women, have received death threats too. Many in the media are treating Gamergate as a simple damsel in distress story. Well, damsels are in distress, but they are on both sides of the controversy. Gamergaters were amazed and grateful for my defense of their hobby, because for years they've been disparaged as nerds, shut-ins, and proto-school shooters. Now critics have added misogynist and death threateners to the mix. Writers at popular game websites like Kotaku and Polygon, they did a good job defending video games from the false charge that they foster violence. But when gender activists came along, accusing games of creating misogyny, these journalists eagerly jumped on the bandwagon. And they were not happy with my video. Colin Campbell, the senior reporter at Polygon, for example, called me a reactionary, and he suggested that my indifference to sexism in videos was a, quote, irresponsible abrogation of our shared humanity. I don't doubt Mr. Campbell's sincerity. Many games do depict horrific violence and mistreatment of women. But remember, there is vastly more violence and mistreatment of men. Now, there are horrible scenes in video games like Grand Theft Auto, and these upset me. But I also cringe at the violence in television shows like Breaking Bad and The Sopranos. I mean, I'd rather play games with themes from Downton Abbey or The Umbrellas of Cherbourg.
What is a weekend?
But my game and film preferences cannot be generalized and certainly can't be a basis for condemning others. I mean, behavior should be guided by Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative, but the rules of the imagination are more permissive. Would-be game reformers need to connect the games they criticize to negative world consequences. They need to show, not dogmatically assume, that video games make people sexist. The burden of proof rests with them. And intuitions that a certain game or book or film, comic book, song, that these are psychologically damaging and socially corrosive, this is rarely borne out in reality. Now, critics might respond that we should be unforgiving of sexist tropes, even if we can't prove the games cause misogyny. But what counts as sexism is unsettled, even among feminists. Consider the newly released video game Bayonetta 2. Bayonetta is a powerful, charismatic female protagonist created by a Japanese female game developer. Now, she's a wildly popular video heroine, and some feminists have embraced her as an exemplar of girl power. But the feminist critic, Anita Sarkeesian, disagrees. She has called the game pernicious, and she faults its shameless sexism and the use of the male gaze. Everything about Bayonetta's design, says Sarkeesian, is created specifically for the sexual pleasure of straight male gamers.
Because it's basically a choose-your-own patriarchal adventure porno fantasy.
Those were her words. Now, her critique relies on a 1975 feminist theory about the male gaze and how it objectifies and demeans women. But gaze theory has evolved since 1975. It turns out that spectators might be able to gaze at a woman's beauty and also identify with her at a human level. Now, men are the main market for competitive action games, and many men, not all of them, but many, do like images of beautiful, sexy women. Why shame them for this? Now, traditionally, women, gays, trans people, they have been policed and humiliated for their sexuality. That is wrong. Today, at least in certain feminist circles, it's open season on the sexual preferences of straight males. That's also wrong. Now, when Gamergaters protest the politicization of gaming journalism, they're not fighting progress or thwarting feminism. Most of them are probably supporters of mainstream equality feminism. They are pushing back on a hardline, puritanical gender politics that for some reason many of their critics are imposing on them. Well, take it from Based Mom. Gamergate overall is a voice for moderation in today's fevered debates over sex and gender. And those gamers, they're not going away anytime soon. I mean, once they enter a battle, they like to win. And they know a thing or two about how to slay a dragon. Well, what do you think of the Gamergate debate? Do you agree that the media has given a misleading account? Let me know in the comments section. And if you appreciate this series, please show your support by subscribing. And also follow me on Twitter. Thank you for watching The Factual Feminist.